Hello, hello. This is the LEGO Star Wars Kylo Ren's Shuttle set for The Rise of Skywalker. In this video, I'm first going to take you on a quick tour through the major features, functions, and figures for this set. Then I'm going to kind of reset, go through a deeper dive, compare this to the 2015 version and also my modified color swapped version from 2015 Force Awakens, and also answer some viewer questions from the preview period. In universe, this is known as an Upsilon class shuttle, and it carries on the nice long tradition of elegant variable wing geometry shuttles that began with the Lambda class, such as the Tiderium by name in the original trilogy. I don't know if anything will ever hold a candle to that one in particular, but this certainly tries with a very evil flair. This 2019 LEGO model takes advantage of a number of pieces that didn't exist in 2015, the first time they did one of these, like this little guy right here is a modified 1x1 tile. It's round with a bar extension coming off of it. Just allows you to have very, very small details that stick out from a surface. That's kind of a bumper piece, like a bumper bar piece that's been added in here just for greebling or just surface texture. And also these right here are a pair of ice skates for minifigs, but they're done in black. I don't think I've seen the black color before. Nice that they're using those more and more, and they're just mounted to a couple more of these here. So you end up with a pretty nice looking surface texture. You've got some ingot pieces in black here. These parts here also did not exist previously. Up front, there's kind of a face or a visor sort of segment of this that's supposed to be where people are able to look through from the inside. That does not actually extend all the way to the interior space that we'll look at in just a minute, but there's enough thickness of the transparent pieces there to give a good impression of what it's supposed to represent with windows, and I think it's a pretty accurate shape as well. As for that variable wing geometry I mentioned, well, they've got that actually mechanized now with a very nice mechanism inside that uses cams, no gears in there, and there's also a spring. It's like a shock absorber looking thing from the Lego Technic line that's fairly stiff and allows all this to work very smoothly. I don't need to put a lot of force into it, and in fact you can have this in its parked mode with the wings vertical and just lift it up. You don't even need to turn this. It's just the mechanism is attached to one engine there. You just lift it up and the wings automatically will splay out. The wings themselves are kind of flat. They're kind of plain as viewed from the outside, at least. There's a little bit of difference of color as you look at it from straight on with some dark gray and light gray. That's really just to provide a little bit of extra visual interest there, because if everything was black, then it might look really evil, but it also might look a little bit boring. You just don't see the shapes all that well. So I think it is a good thing that they brought in some differences of value in there. And also when you look at the inside surface of one of these wings, which are symmetrical from side to side, then you see a lot more. Part of that has to do with mechanism that's built in. I think that this could have been camouflaged a little bit better, but they did a pretty good job of keeping it pretty simple as it's supposed to be. In the movie, the real Upsilon shuttle has wing tips that actually retract to make the whole thing smaller for fitting into parking spaces, basically, on carriers and such. And for that, there's a built-in, fairly simple mechanism here that allows you to just fold the wings down. It's not as slick as actually having them come down inside, but I think as a Lego solution, as a substitution, this is pretty elegant, and it's pretty consistent in how it works. So you can lock it into place. There's a little ball joint here at the end that just fits into a couple of clips. I have found that sometimes that piece will stay in place when you move this whole thing out, but it's not bad, and it's not frustrating for sure. So all of this will ultimately fold down like that to make the entire ship look and feel much more compact, and it'll also fit into many more display spaces like this, even though it doesn't look as cool. There's also some interior detail. All of this here opens up to give you a pretty nice amount of space. It does only hold 3 figures though. They're intended to be sitting down with a pilot and then 2 passengers, and there are a couple of clips along the sides to hold on to your passengers' minifig accessories like blasters or whatever other weapons they may have. And there's a basic small console for the pilot. The main featured figure is, of course, Kylo Ren himself. He has put his helmet back together with some glowing red JB weld because he no longer has Old Man Snoke making fun of him for it. And that's just the same mold that we had originally for The Force Awakens. It just has a new print on it. The print looks pretty good. Could have used, some alternate color in there to add a little extra sparkle, a little extra glow to the red, but it's nicely detailed, I think. And of course it has his messed up lightsaber that's venting off to the sides. There's one of the facial expressions with his super cool guy scar that makes him feel more tough. And there's his alternate expression for when he's having a temper tantrum again. Now here are two of the Knights of Ren. I don't care what the story is behind these guys. I don't care how much they're going to appear in the movie or not. They just look super cool to me, especially as Lego figures. They are very different, they're unique, they're interesting, they look very evil. They have hands-on melee-style weapons and pretty good prints, I would say. Really, really cool jobs that have been done here, I think, for these as models. There's a new mold for the robe hood for the one on the left that is not connected at the base. That's brand new, and I think it looks really good in black on this character. Not necessarily on other figures, though, that will use that, as we'll see in the future. There are the prints on the backs of the torsos with a little bit of metallic print. For the one on the right, it's actually a dark silver color. It's like a gunmetal gray, but a little bit lighter than usual. No print whatsoever for the head of the one on the right. Cool print for the one on the left, and the one on the right has no print because, well, first of all, we don't know what their faces actually look like at this time. Don't know if they'll actually ever be shown canonically, but this is a helmet that has a slot in it. So you actually are seeing the black through there. And if you want to do custom swap figures, then you can have a different color of visor appear by changing the color of the head underneath. Here are two trooper figures on the right, obviously just a regular First Order Stormtrooper in the second generation version of printing for the face, and on the left is the new Sith Trooper. And this is another case where I don't care what they're going to do with that design or that class in universe, in the movie, in comics, wherever. I don't care about any of that. It just looks really cool to me. And I think that a lot of toy collectors, collectible collectors, Star Wars fans in general, sci-fi fans in general, just like the look of that guy or that suit. And I think Lego has captured it exceptionally well in this scale with their own kind of cutesy style. It still looks very evil here. It actually does use the exact same mold as the figure on the right for the helmet. It does look like there's a pronounced ridge going down the center of the face, if you will, there. There is not, or there are not, any special ridges. There's just a bit of an optical illusion there. It's using the exact same shape as the standard trooper on the right, and you've got a blaster with a scope there, which looks cool, differentiates the whole thing, and again, good printing around the back to match. Now, of course, underneath these helmets, what do you expect? Nothing but all Angry Clone all day. And last up, this is General Pride. He has a very classic comic sort of name for a villain character. He's got the all gunmetal gray color scheme for his entire outfit there. I think it ought to be black. I mean, his outfit appears to be the same color as General Hux's. I'm glad that General Hux has somebody to hopefully outstage him after he was terribly, terribly shamed in the beginning of Last Jedi, basically making that character useless and forgettable. This guy looks way too much like Moff Tarkin in Lego form because of the hairpiece and the fact that it's an older gentleman. There's his alternate face. I think something should have been done to differentiate him from Tarkin because he's not Tarkin and the real guy doesn't look like Tarkin. And these are the leftover spare pieces here with a nice selection actually for customizers and custom builders. 3 different colors of lightsaber hilt there. You get 1 extra of the black colored ice skate piece, and this is just an extra bolt for the spring-loaded shooters for the ship. So that's it for the quick overview section of the video. Now let's take a look at some comparisons and also take a deeper dive into some of the specific details and what you can do with the new set. First of all, let me get out of the way as quickly as possible the comparison to the 2015 version, which simply was not done correctly. It did not have the ability to change the angles of the wings, though it did have the ability to retract them down, and it was just the wrong color. Some toy manufacturers got that right when they did theirs, toy and collectibles manufacturers. Some got it wrong, and Lego was not the only to get it wrong. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that it was most likely that they didn't get good information from Disney, from Lucasfilm, good reference material, basically. So what they did previously, everybody knows, wasn't right. I'm actually glad that somebody on the design team was able to get some redemption by going back and doing this model again and being able to do it right this time. So between the two, obviously this is the better looking, it's the more accurate, it looks more cool, I think, and it's just the better one in general. Key words there, in general. Not everything about the new one is better than the old. Look at this from the front. You can see some pretty significant differences in the main fuselage. The new one's fuselage is smaller. It's also lower. I think that having it lower and flatter helps with the proportions. The real thing has wings that are actually even taller than this, so I think this is more accurate looking, but that leaves you with less interior space, and the shaping of this is not necessarily quite as cool around the side, not quite as complete. Also, look down at the base. The original one had little folding wing flaps. I want to say it's shades of V-wing there. It's kind of what it feels like. I don't know how completely accurate this is, but it was nice to have those just as an additional option. But the interior change is much more pronounced. See, look at this. The original could transport a bunch of dudes into battle, and these are standing up except for the pilot there at the front. I could probably squeeze in even one more if I was creative about it, and there are a couple extra clips to hold on to minifig accessories in there, and that's not even the full extent of it. Here at the back, there is kind of a trunk, and I've got the other Knight of Ren figure down in there with additional space on top of that. I could easily put at least two more figures in there, one standing, one sitting. I was creative and had small enough fingers. I could probably put in even more than that. And there are also these additional clips up on the roof of this little trunk section to hold on to more small minifig accessories. And all that, again, closes up fully. The new one has luxurious accommodations for all of 3 figures in total. That is it. They have to sit down because of the shorter height of the cockpit section, and that's really it. There's not much space to even play around in there to try to fit in more, creatively. You could lay some down across or whatnot, but, to actually properly have them in there with some form of dignity, this is about the extent of it. And there's no trunk on this one. You can't open this space up back here because that's all dedicated to the wing tilting mechanism that's built in there. I like that wing tilting mechanism. I like it a lot. I think it adds a ton. Having that space taken up, I think, is a good trade-off. I think that really helps make this a significantly better toy, but you do lose a lot of interior space, not just from that back there, but also, and more importantly, from the shortening in height of this entire forward fuselage. I should also point out that there is a boarding and unboarding ramp here. It's kind of camouflaged. That's it. So yeah, it just angles down a little bit. Of course, there's absolutely no space for somebody to actually walk under there. They don't even give you space for figure legs really to be attached. I mean, I could kind of do a thing like this with a little panel there, get the legs stuck in a little bit, and he's just walking down the ramp. He's just going to leave this thing. There's not even enough space underneath this ship for my pinky finger to fit all the way, so that's kind of useless if you ask me. All right, that comparison took a lot longer than I expected, but I do need to do one more comparison. A lot of people who have followed my videos have asked for the comparison between the new Kylo Ren Shuttle and my modified version from 2015 that was modified to be more accurate. First thing I need to get out of the way forever is the suggestion that Lego has copied me. Nobody should ever even begin to think that Lego copied me, because all I did was copy Lego's original design, change out the parts, do direct swaps for black, changed up the design a little bit on the front, trying to copy the in-universe thing, the actual models that Lucasfilm had, Lucasfilm designers had come up with to show in The Force Awakens. I was trying to copy Lucasfilm, just like Lego was trying to copy Lucasfilm, and they just didn't do the greatest job the first time around. So I copied Lucasfilm a little bit better, and now Lego has copied Lucasfilm a little bit better as well than they did the first time. That's all that's happened. Lego has not copied me at all. You can look right here and say, but what about that? So much of the design of the visor section, the window section, is identical in shape and construction. I mean, yes, I did 1x1s here to get a little bit more texture across the different window panes. They did 1x2s at the front with the tiles, but otherwise, that shape is identical. And that's again because I was trying to copy the real thing. And there are only a limited number of ways you can build a given shape with the limited number of pieces that Lego creates. So stuff like this is going to happen all the time when two people are trying to recreate the exact same thing that already exists, when two people are trying to copy the same thing that already exists in another form using the limited palette of available Lego pieces, especially on a small scale. You're very frequently going to have the same solution arrived at from completely different brains on opposite sides of the world. They didn't copy me. Nobody ever say again that Lego has copied me. Between the two, from a distance, I think that the new Lego design looks better in its shape, keeping the color schemes the same here. I think the new Lego design looks better than the old Lego design with its proportions. It is unfortunate that you do have to lose all that interior space, but I think this looks better on display, and having that working wing mechanism, again, is just great for a toy. Mine was like a hack. I took out a handful of pieces and set up a little system where I could pull a couple of pins and allow the wings to swing out and be close to in a general position where they should be. Now, Lego's version here does not have the wings opening up as far as they can, as far as we know that this ship's wings will splay apart in universe, but we have seen it flying around with the wings closer together, so it has multiple angles. It doesn't just have a binary, either vertical or all the way out. I think it would have been nice if they had allowed more range so that you could get that wider spread, but it's really not that bad here. It just needed to have something, and it has something here. And I think it's more than good enough. Could have been better. It could probably be modified again to make it go a little bit farther. There are some limitations. I think you can change the position of the linkage, one of the connections inside, for the mechanism itself to get a little more leverage, well, actually a little less leverage, technically speaking, a little mechanical disadvantage, to allow this to go a little bit farther. Remove a few pieces down here that are stopping this, or move them, and I think you can actually make this go farther if you want it to with some modifications. But as it is, this is actually pretty cool. This is fairly robust in how it's built. These wings are not gonna come off. I can hold this by one wing. I mean, this is really sturdily constructed as something that can actually move with variable geometry is concerned. Now, these do flap around. They don't lock out. That's one thing that I don't like here, is that they don't lock in their outward position at all. So if you're flying this around, like that upper wing now wants to start to come in, and because they're linked, it's trying to pull them both together, and it comes back apart. It's I do wish that would lock in the out position, or the in position for that matter. As soon as you pick this up off the ground, if you're not holding onto this engine, those wings are going to just fall out. I like how that looks, but I want to have the option as someone who wants to be able to play with this a little bit, at least a little bit. And I'm sure that kids want to play with it a lot more than I do. It would be nice to be able to do what you want, to have it do what you want. But I think it's better to have it go on its own than to only be able to do it manually, because it's just a cool feature. It's smooth, and with that shock absorber, the spring inside, it has the right amount of friction. So overall, I think that Lego has done a very good job with this as a toy, which is what this is intended to be. I like the overall look of it better from a distance on display. It's more accurate than the old design, even with a color swap. But I do lament the loss of interior space on this, and I do think that this has just a few too many brighter colored pieces. It needs to not be all black. Even when I did my full swap and had the ability to change anything I wanted, I left some non-black pieces on there, just in small places, some silver, some dark gray. This leaves more than that. Also has a little bit of light gray like this here on the top. I don't like that, and I wish that had been covered up a little bit better, or if they'd used some wedge plates there again like they did previously to cover that up from the side. And you can see some blue Technic pins in some small spots, but overall I think this is forward movement on the design, and I wouldn't want them to go back. A viewer named KillerXD725 specifically asked, are there any stickers in this set? And the answer, I'm happy to say, is no stickers whatsoever. A viewer with the username Bobby Fasciano asks, could someone, with the right technology, shrink down and install an engine system in this, and then take it into space? Thanks. I really need to know this before I buy. Well, Bobby, if the engine system is powered by propane... No. Strictly speaking, yes, if the technology existed, you could shrink down some sort of engine system into this and get some level of thrust out of it that would be useful in space. But do beware that the wing mechanism that's in there, the same one that takes out usable space from this. Oh, I forgot about this. Look, you can store stuff here. That's your replacement for the trunk. The mechanism in there does take out a lot of space that would be used by not only an engine system but also fuel stores. So you'd have to go way into the future to grab technology that would be able to shrink down that much to be useful. And then as for actually taking this into space, I'm going to take your question very literally and say that yes, if you did shrink down an engine system and then you packed up the entire model into a nice canister and you put it onto a rocket that's going to launch from Earth, and then you were certified to actually be on that rocket as well as taking passengers, then technically you could take this into space with you on that actual real rocket. Now, a number of people have directly asked me if they already have the 2015 version of Kylo Ren's shuttle, would I recommend that they get the new version? And it's really easy to give a simple kind of, I don't know, lazy answer to that and say, well, what do you think? Go for what you like. But there are definitely some cases where I think that Lego just makes so much improvement from one generation to the next that I'm going to recommend no matter what, even if you have the old, you should get the newer because it's so much better, especially the building experience. This is not one of those situations. I think if you are happy enough with this, you're proud to have it, then continue to be proud to have it, because I think that if you try to go to this as an upgrade, you may be very disappointed by the change to the fuselage. I mean, the ability for a shuttle to carry, to shuttle people around is pretty key. It's pretty important. And, it could be said that it's mainly designed to shuttle Kylo Ren himself, but he also is supposed to have some special forces, special operations, troops that go with him, bodyguards, whatever, additional troops, shock troops, I don't know, you want to be able to deploy troops from a sci-fi shuttle of a decent size. This is not a taxi, it's a shuttle. And you will definitely be disappointed if you're happy with this. You'll be disappointed in this part. The wings, yeah, they're super cool. And if you already have this and you really want to see this, and you really want to see the black and you really want to see the red and everything, then it's a what you see is what you get kind of situation. If you really like the look of this and you just want that, you look at it and it just kind of burns into your eyes, that kind of desire, I want to have that here, I want to see it closer, then go for it. Because I do think that this is a good model, and it does have, all the obvious changes to the elegance of that bat kind of style, which is more accurate. The front looks better. It looks really great on display. The build process is good. It's enjoyable. It's not too repetitive anywhere. People have asked about that. The wings are very similar side to side, but They get put together actually pretty quickly. So yes, I can easily say, if you are happy with this, then stick with it, don't buy it. But I can also definitely say, if you really want this, you will feel the upgrades. Just beware that if one of the things that you're really attached to is the passenger compartment, this is a big step down. And then a viewer named Mecha asks simply, what's up, JANG? I don't know what up JANG is. I mean, I'm JANG, but up JANG? I don't know. I think, like, if I were to make a branded, JANG branded energy drink, then it would possibly be called JANG Up with an exclamation point at the end. But up JANG, I just don't know. Sorry. Interestingly, this 2019 set has the exact same number of pieces as the 2015 version. And I feel like that's not a coincidence at all. I feel like LEGO just had an opportunity and decided to try a bit of a social experiment there to see what we people who talk about these things would say about the fact that this has gone up in price. Well, it's higher in price by $10 US than the 2015 version with the exact same number of pieces. Well, here's what I'm going to say about it. Inflation. Sorry, there are a lot of people out there that like to argue against inflation as a thing to consider, but it exists. It's real. It affects everything. It affects the prices of everything. And that doesn't matter if you like it, if you want it to be a factor or not. It is, and that can completely accommodate what has happened here, the change in price here. So this is essentially the same price today as the 2015 one was in 2015 for the exact same number of pieces. That aside, this is expensive. And this does feel to me like a little bit less of stuff because of the smaller fuselage. And looking at it in person, it just feels like there's less volume of stuff here than there was with the previous one. Though you do have this nice wing mechanism, which is an improvement. And I really like the selection of figures here. All these figures are very good. General Pride is probably the least interesting of them, but still he's gunmetal gray. So that's cool. I wish there were more Sith troopers. 2 Sith troopers rather than 1 First Order Stormtrooper thrown in there. Don't know how they're going to work out. Don't know if they're going to do Knights of Ren, any more Knights of Ren. I don't know if there will be any more in Rise of Skywalker. So many questions about that, but I would love to be able to get the Sith Trooper as a standalone in a much cheaper set. I'd love to have multiple of those. I'm sure that I'm not alone in that. Overall, I would like to see this a good deal cheaper. I'd like to see it $10, $15, even $20 cheaper easily to feel like more of a good deal for me for the amount of stuff that you get here. Forget about weight, price to part, any of that. Just looking at it based on my experience going through hundreds of LEGO sets in recent years, I want to see more in front of me for this. There's not enough detail here. There's not enough quality in the build to make up, in my opinion, for the reduced overall size of it for essentially the same price as the 2015 one, adjusted for inflation. The good news is that LEGO is clearly marking suggested retail prices, at least in the US, for discounts. They are trying to be nicer to their quote-unquote retail partners, in other words, regular stores, and not compete against them so much by in other words, setting their own suggested retail prices higher, which is the price that LEGO itself will sell these at by default, and then allowing Target, Walmart, Amazon, etc. to mark prices down. So look for sales for sure. I've already heard about plenty of sales going around. I've gotten things on sale on day one at regular stores from this wave of Star Wars sets. So take advantage of that if you can. Try to get this at a cheaper price if you want it. If you're interested in the build process for this set, if that might help you to make a decision on whether you want to buy it or not, well, go check it out for yourself. I have uploaded, of course, the pure build of this in real time with nothing but the sound of putting the parts together. If that takes too long, it's kind of something you can just throw on and then do other stuff. But if you want to actually sit and in one sitting watch the full build, check out my speed build. I will link to both versions of the build momentarily on the screen. So thank you for watching. Hope that you enjoyed this. Hope that I answered a lot of people's questions. I appreciate all of your feedback, and I'll talk to you again soon.